Welcome to the Hundredfold Journey. We help people step out of religious bondage and into true abundance. We invite you to embark on a journey, a spiritual journey called the Hundredfold. At a Hundredfold, we are a group of people developing new thoughts, habits, and beliefs to understand our true identity, to live our life purpose and experience the abundant life just the way Jesus did. Our mission is to provide support, encouragement, and resources to help you on your journey. The life you are meant to live is closer than you think. The journey is the destination, and your journey starts now. Good morning, Doug here from the Hundredfold Journey. Thanks again for joining us on this Grace Awakening Network program. We're embarking on a journey with you so that you can know your true identity, live your life purpose, and experience true abundance. Because a Hundredfold is about a group of people who are looking to find their true identity, and by doing so, finding God's true identity. So thanks for joining us today. We are in a series called The 7 I Am Statements of Jesus, and these are statements about us. They were also a statement about Jesus, and this is what Jesus said about himself. So since we are one with him and the Father is in us and we are one, there is no separation. So this verse, John 14:20, declares that in that day you will know that I am in my Father, that you are in me, and I am in you. I mean, what an amazing verse. So there is no separation. So as we've been talking about each week, we've been talking about, I am the light of the world. I am the bread of life. I am the good shepherd. Those are all statements that Jesus had about himself, but they're also truths about who we are, because I am the light of the world. I am the bread of life. So as we talk about today, which is the I am the true vine, we're going to see that I am the true vine, and that I'm the one that bears the fruit, if you will. So let's look at the verse that this comes from. This is John chapter 15, and it says, I am the true vine. My Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes it up or lifts up, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes or cleans or purifies, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide or remain in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. Verse 5. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast or thrown out as a branch and is withered, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples. So I've been a Christian for close to 40 years. And I remember reading these verses and being very nervous about making sure that I am a good branch that bears good fruit, and that if I don't, then God is going to cut me off. He's going to cast me out, and he's going to throw me into the fire. So there was a lot of worry, a lot of fear about these verses. And it's like, okay, so I better make sure that verse 4, that I abide or remain in him, or else all hell's going to break loose, literally. So those were the thoughts in my mind. But as we've been discovering in this series about the I am statements, these are I am statements about who I am, because the I am is in me. There is no separation. I am one with the Father. I am one with Christ. There is no separation. So I am the true vine, and I am co-creating, I am manifesting the life that I desire. And down at verse 7, that if you ask anything, it shall be done for you. So I'm the one that's bearing the fruit. I'm the one that's producing the branches. And so there's nothing to fear here. It's not like I am separate from God. I am God. I am one with him. And I get to choose the branches that are being produced, and God and I are co-creating together because he's the vine dresser, and we work together to make me as fruitful as possible, to bear as much fruit as possible. So I hope as we dig into this that I'll have the ability to change your mind here through the Spirit, to not be fearful about these verses, to look at them in a different light, the light that I am the vine, the true vine. So here, the word for true or truth, and we actually talked about this last week. The resurrection. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. It's actually the same word in meth, which is firmness, faithfulness, and truth. And these letters talk about the leader, mighty, sealed, joined two things. So basically, it's showing me that the true vine is sealed, that the leader is within me, and that I am mighty, and that he's joined two things. And that's me and him. We are one. We're joined together. So that's where the true Hebrew word is. And then here's vine. Vine is gefen, and this one is lifted up or entrance. So I thought this was interesting because the verse talks about the branch being lifted up, but then entrance talks about a mouth, an opening, an entrance to command, speak. So basically, it's we have the ability uh, to open up or create, and it's an opening, it's an entrance, letting things in and out. So that's the vine that has the energy, the frequency, and vibration. And in this case, the vine has it's sap or whatever's inside of it, but it has the ability to go out to the branches, right? So it's an entrance. It's a way that the energy and frequency gets to the branch or to the vine. Hope that makes sense. So here, just a reminder, and we've covered this several times, is that we are in perfect union. This is a perfect view. If you look at it vertically, is it? This is the vine. This is the energy. This is the frequency that is within us. There is no separation. It's not that he's the vine and I'm the branch, and I've got to attach myself and make sure I abide. No, I'm already there. I am the vine. And here it talks about in Ephesians that we've been raised and seated in heavenly places. 1 John 4:17 says, as he is, so I am in this world. John 17:22, we've been given the glory that Jesus had, we have. And then in 1 Peter, it says, we've been given everything that pertains to life and godliness, and we're partakers of the divine nature. So as we think about being the true vine, we have to remind ourselves that the vine, we have that energy within us. There is no separation, right? How's that coming through? Any questions up to this point?
No, it's just I think it's great because it's just knowing who you are.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing is to be awakened, to know your truth, to know, what your birthright is.
Mhm. Yes, yes. And again, the way that I used to look at this, being a Christian for many years, is there was separation, right? Is the way, the truth, and the life. Okay, that's Jesus over there, and I'm over here, and there's that separation. Being the good shepherd, being the light of the world, and even the vine, right? That there's separation. But the beauty about these seven I am statements is it's declaring who I am. And to your point, it's our identity and understanding who I truly am and how God sees me, because this is how God sees me. I'm not declaring this. I'm not saying, yeah, as he is, so I am in this world. This is God declaring this to me, and I
Yeah.
just need to be in agreement with it. And this
Yeah.
also includes me being the true vine.
Yep. Aligning up with the truth, you
There you
know,
go. Yeah, exactly.
knowing who you are. Yeah.
So, all right. So now, just like last week, I thought it was important to say or to show I am always the true vine, but which one do I choose? Do I choose the vine energy or life? And if you remember, the definition of vine was there's an entrance or an opening, right? And something that's lifted up. Am I lifting up my ego and allowing the energy and the life from that to be the energy that flows into the branches? Or am I living in a state of rest with the energy and life of the spirit? And it's a choice. We do have a choice. So the ego choice is we both have branches. There's always branches. We're always producing fruit. But what kind of fruit is it? Now, what's interesting is the ego says, and what those verses says is that without me you can bear nothing, right? There is no fruit. So it's interesting because I know I can produce a lot of fruit, right? um, I can create a lot of things, but is it really good fruit? Is it like the fruit of the spirit? And I'll show that on the next slide. But what it's saying is that we're not going to be producing good fruit. It's of the world, you could say. And that could be, fear or anxiety or anger. So what's cool about this is that is our guidepost to show us where we're pulling from. Are we pulling from ego, or are we pulling from spirit, depending on the fruit that comes out? And again, I'll show you that on the next slide. The other one is the difference is there's the branches downtrodden, uh, does not allow to be pruned, right? Because there's some branches that aren't bearing fruit that do need to be trimmed, but we're not allowing that. No, that's mine. And I heard Abraham Hicks say, my hand's on the stove. My mom's hand was on the stove. My grandmother's hand was on the stove. But you get to choose whether you want to have your hand on the stove, right? And that habit that has been entrenched into you can be pruned, can be cut. But the question is do you want to allow it? Because it feels so familiar to have your hand on the stove, but we can take it off. Um, Again, to the ego is unworthy. You just feel unworthy, unclean, and there's mixture in your beliefs. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not. But here's what's cool is the desires are not answered. What you truly believe and think that you want, sorry, what you think you want, you don't believe that you deserve to have it because of your negative thinking about who you are. You don't think that you're clean, back up to the side on the right, clean, pure, and without mixture. You think, and again, back up to our identity, you don't believe who you are. So your true desires aren't going to be answered. Your prayers aren't going to be answered. And then again, back to bearing no fruit. Whereas the spirit side, you can see, right? So they're both branches. What kind of fruit are you producing? And the spirit side, you're bearing fruit. You've been raised up. You understand your identity. You're clean. You're pure, without mixture. You're abiding, which means you're resting because you know you're fully supported versus being out of worry and fear. And then what's cool is you ask what you desire and it will be done for you. I mean, that's the promise from these verses. So So that will come from your identity. And then the last part of those verses is you will bear much fruit. So what kind of fruit will we be producing? And Galatians tells us very specifically the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self control. Now, I mentioned before that these were like guideposts in our lives. So when we see our life lining up and that we are joyful and we are loving and there's peace in our life, then we know that we are producing good fruit and that these branches that are coming out of us are producing this for us because life is a mirror which reflects back what I truly believe and think. So if you believe that your true identity is that you are one with God and that there is no separation and that you are the dwelling place and that you are the true vine, if you truly believe that, then these are the fruit that will produce. These will be the branches that you'll be producing. But if you don't believe that, if you believe there's separation, that God's an angry God, and like I was for many years of my Christian life, that I better make sure I do all the right things. I'm abiding, right? I'm reading my Bible. I have my quiet time. I'm tithing. I'm going to church. Um, you know, I'm doing all these things. I'm worshiping God. It's Him up there and I'm down here, and come, bring the blessings down. Then what fruit am I going to be producing? Right? I'm going to be judging other people, which is what I would do. Um, I would think that I would have to do these things in order for God to be pleased with me. And that's just not the way to live. And it burned me out. Hence the reason why I'm on this hundredfold journey is because that hundredfold journey comes from a state of rest. And there's nothing that I need to do in order to be who I already am. I am that true vine. So, talking about the temple and where I've brought this up before, but there's the outer court, the inner court, and the Holy of Holies. Now, what's interesting is that um, the vine, there was the pictures of the vine throughout the temple, but nothing more prevalent than on what's called the table of showbread, which is inside the holy place, which if you map this out on the body, right, this is inside of us. It's not outside. It's not in the outer court. It's on the inside. And of course, we know that the Holy of Holies is right here. This is the dwelling place of God. This is where God meets us, is right here between the two cherubs. but but back to the holy place. So in there, um, there's a symbol of what this looks like. And the vine, there's actually the vine, the on the cup of the on the table of showbread, there was a picture of a vine on that cup. And so the question is what comes off the vine? Grapes. And what do grapes make? They make wine, right? And wine is cause for celebration. So he is the true vine, which is the true wine, which is true communion, which is also held in the holy place in the temple on the table of showbread. And what's cool about it is that there was a pitcher and there was a cup, and they were both made of pure gold. And the pure gold held the fruit of the labor of the vine, because that's who we are. We're a pitcher, if you will, of pure gold. So when we think of ourselves as pure gold, and we hold that within us, the fruit of the vine, and it comes out of being pure gold, because God is pure gold, right? No impurities at all. Anyways, I thought that was interesting because that's a symbolism here. And then the other one is, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it talks about that if we eat the flesh and drink the blood, that it actually is a symbol that represents our body, right? And that when we digest and when we drink, it actually flows through our body and every part of our body. And I like this kind of picture, even though it's a little weird looking. It's like there's branches, right? The branches that are within us, within our body, and all that frequency and energy and vibration from the grapes and from the flesh um, come in us and make us who we are. Right? There are energy and frequency and vibration. So I am the true vine. So when I understand my true identity and who I am, it penetrates. It goes into every cell of my body. All right. So that kind of covers what I wanted to talk about. But then I thought it might be a good idea to kind of talk about how the true vine reflects in your life. So for those that are online, maybe if you could share maybe some branches that you have been developing or want to develop in your life, and how being that true vine that we're co-creators and that we can actually create the branches that we want to produce. So maybe if you can give that a little thought there about what branches you're producing. So would you like to share anything off the top here?
Um, well, I think my coming to know my journey, I've let go of things that I felt like were holding me back, in bondage. And
Uh,
now I'm more at rest and peace. And to me, that's, fulfilling is to feel rest and to feel peace, to have that freedom, not to worry. And
so
it's
it's
just
in, it's interesting. Sorry for interrupting, but you'd mentioned the old beliefs and such, and really what you're doing is you're being that vine dresser. You're
Mhm.
cutting off those old branches
Right.
and allowing them to wither and go away, and in fact even to the point where you're burning them no longer to be seen again.
Right. It's the way I used to think and believe of
Yeah,
myself.
exactly.
And a lot
Exactly.
of it was a learned maybe behavior, or maybe what I was told, or maybe I didn't feel like I was smart enough or something like that. But I took on a new identity on this
Hmm.
journey, and
Hmm.
and I just become awakened to who I really am, and just walking in that. So everything is a reflection of the way that you think who you are.
Yes.
And so you bear fruit knowing who you are, and if you're thinking that you're broken or sad, then that's the fruit you're going to bear. So it's a choice, as you were saying.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I feel like I'm more freer, happier, at peace.
Yep. Being the co-creator. And what back to the analogy of the branches and cutting off the branches. Um, the analogy could also be used for the thoughts that we have, and what that means is that our negative thinking and our negative beliefs that maybe we've had for decades. Um, if you listen to Caroline Leaf, she actually illustrates that as a tree, or she calls them dendrites that actually create connections within our brains, and it's actually physical things. Um, and those negative beliefs are growing, and literally what we need to do is rewire our brain and basically cut off those branches, those dendrites that have been there. So that could be considered a branch, and then burn those thoughts. So what they are thoughts, because thoughts are beliefs. Beliefs are what you think about over and over and over again. So we need to cut those negative thoughts out and come into the true agreement with God of who we truly are. Yeah.
Yes. Mm,
Yeah.
that's good.
So it's rewiring our brain, creating new habits, and building a new identity, which is what a hundredfold is all about.
Correct. Just waking up and knowing who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the promise that comes that Jesus said at the end there is that whatever we ask, we will get it.
Mm,
So, and what's interesting about that is it's not only because we're always producing something, and it could be a good branch or it could be a bad branch, and the definition of the two is just how you view it. In my opinion, a good branch is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, but a bad branch could be, pain and anger and frustration. And how do you know the difference is how you feel about it, right? Does it feel better to be loving and joyful and peaceful, or angry and bitter and frustrated? So God has given us like an emotional guidance system that shows us what our preferences are. But we're always producing something. So we might as well make the choice and choose from the spirit what, bearing good fruit, um, and making those choices.
mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. So that's the end of our 7 IM statements. Next week, we're actually going to do a summary or a review and just kind of touch base and remind ourselves just how amazing we are and how we are God's temple, and that we are his dwelling place, and that all of these truths are true for us. We are on social media, The Hundredfold Journey, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So please reach out to us on those channels. And then, of course, on our website, thehundredfoldjourney.com, there's our QR code that you can go into. And then you can always reach out to me at thehundredfoldjourney@gmail.com. So thanks for joining us this morning, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.